This show contains spoilers and explicit language. Listener discretion is advised.
Movies with Ron, movies with Ron.
Hell yeah, motherfucker.
Movies with Ron.
Hey, Rick.
What's up, Chris?
We got a question from a fan.
Excuse me. I'd like to ask you a few questions.
Okay, shoot.
From Sal Roma. Twitter handle JTally986. Remember when we talked about nobody says bye on the telephones?
Yeah.
Well, Sal says, in movies and TV, nobody ever closes doors. Have you ever heard of that?
I've never heard of that, and to be honest, I haven't really been paying attention that closely.
Well, I knew about this question beforehand, so I've been paying attention to the stuff I've been watching. Only right when I get there to watch something, I forget about it. I'm just as in the dark as you. So is it that important? Is that why they don't close them?
I know they don't lock them.
I think that's a story thing. But if it's sci-fi, they just open and close by themselves.
Not necessarily true.
I did some research.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently it's more prevalent in sitcoms. And in sitcoms, the sets are like paper thin.
Yeah.
They're just supposed to look like a room. You know?
Oh, yeah.
It's not a real room.
In sitcoms, people just, breeze through the door.
Yeah.
Hey, what's up, Jim?
And in a script, if someone has to slam a door in the story, like it's part of the story, in the script it has to say, door reinforced. Because if you slam one of those cheap set doors, the whole thing goes crumbling down like a house of cards. I guess that's why they don't close the doors.
Oh, man.
But thank you, Sal. Oh, he also says, I suspect Rick is not very fond of James Gunn after what happened to Yondu. I still need to see Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, but the first was my favorite MCU film. See, that first one was his favorite, and he listened to the episode before going to see it. You don't like what happened to Yondu, huh?
Not one bit, man.
I know, right? It's like they decided to make the most interesting character so far and then killed him.
That was my favorite character in the first one.
Yeah. Have you seen it yet?
Nah, I haven't.
A better death would have been Gamora. It would have been so fucking tragic, dude. After all the conversations they had about, we're like those people on Cheers, where we're always trying to get together, but we never do, to keep the audience on their toes, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, that would have been a nice end of that.
I think there would have been more backlash for that one than Yondu. Everybody else who loves the movie, who's drinking the Guyana grape, would get pissed.
You gotta take risks, man.
That's true.
All right, everyone, chill.
Hey, I had a dream about this episode.
Oh.
A prophetic dream.
So how does it
like
go?
A couple months ago. But like all my prophetic dreams, I have no idea what's going to happen tonight. All I know is that at one point in the past, I dreamt of it. Welcome to episode 50 of Movies with Ron.
50.
The podcast where my older brother surprises me with a movie he saw because I don't go see him anymore. And he explains the whole thing to me from beginning to end. Keep listening and you'll end up liking his versions better. It's okay if you've seen the movie. It's okay if you haven't seen it. The experience is unique, so let's do this. I'm Chris, your MC for the time being. Here in Duck Shit Studios, our sound guy, Rick.
What's up, everybody?
And don't forget, folks...
He's the ball cracker, death on foot. You know him, you love him. He's Ron.
Ron.
I'm kind of a big deal.
Hey, Ron. Ron? Where the fuck is he?
Dude, he's on vacation.
Oh, shit.
You forgot?
I thought we were doing Alien Covenant.
We are doing Alien Covenant.
I didn't go see it.
Well, guess who did?
Holy shit.
Yep, ladies and gentlemen, I have been to the theater, I have seen the film, and we're ready to do this.
Oh, God.
Yeah, I know.
Movies with Rick, episode 1.
All right, now listen up. I want this thing to go smooth
and by the numbers.
Yeah.
Nice one.
I loaded this shit up with some Aliens quotes.
He's.
I wanted to prepare myself for Covenant, and I was like, I just want to watch Aliens.
Yeah.
Just the second one.
All right. Well, Ron, we hope you're having fun on vacation, buddy.
Got another fan on Twitter, Brian Sparks,
What's up, Spox?
at North Florida PI. He says, I was re-listening to Passengers. Don't you love that? People going back, listening to it again.
I do, too.
He says, how much better the movie would be with one stinger. We see Arthur cause Jim's pod malfunction. Hashtag lonely bot. Arthur was the robot bartender.
Right.
Serving him drinks.
Yeah.
I think that's a great idea.
Hmm.
I wasn't sure who Arthur was at first. I thought it was maybe Lawrence Fishburne, which made me think, oh shit, what if Lawrence Fishburne's character comes out and he's the one who woke up Chris Pratt, and he's like been spying on him the whole time and didn't have the courage to go up and talk to him, so he's been hiding and watching him.
Okay.
And he's watched Chris Pratt go crazy and then wake up Jennifer Lawrence, and he's just been like, he's the one who started it all.
Oh, God.
Totally would have absolved Chris Pratt's character. Yeah, we fixed the movie. Thank you, Brian.
Thanks, Brian.
Rick, you know who Zac Efron is?
Yes, I do.
He's going to play Ted Bundy. You know who that is?
He's playing Ted Bundy?
Yeah, dude.
Oh, man.
The movie's called Extremely Wicked, Shockingly Evil, and Vile. The wicked is extreme, the evil is shocking, but the vile is just vile. I don't know. It's a weird title. I'm a title nerd. But seeing Zac Efron be a serial killer? Like, remember when Leonardo DiCaprio was supposed to play Patrick Bateman in American Psycho?
Yeah.
But then he chickened out. I wonder if Zac Efron's going to chicken out. I don't know.
I have no idea how this is going to go, but it is a different direction for him.
Dude, totally.
Good luck, Zach.
So, Rick, you heard about this website, VHS Revival?
I have.
VHSrevival.com. An ode to the halcyon days of home video.
Yeah. Yeah, baby. Yeah.
But it's kind of a celebration of the VHS era, of when movies were released, which is kind of our era.
The better era.
They have listed us in their affiliated podcasts section of their website.
Very nice.
They go on to say, Movies with Ron is a wonderfully produced show bursting with the kind of comic energy that complements its source material perfectly. These guys ooze passion for movies of all kinds, and their shows are guaranteed to entertain from start to finish.
All right.
Fucking cool, huh?
Thank you, VHS.
Yeah. And this site has articles on all of our favorite movies.
And guys, be sure to rewind your VHS tapes before you return them.
I read their article on Aliens.
Yeah. What do they got?
They brought up some good points.
Really?
Something about Ripley being unlikable.
What? How dare you?
Yeah, I know you love Ripley.
I do.
I didn't like her.
No?
Nah, man. The second Alien movie, Aliens, that was our movie for the Aliens franchise. Came out at the perfect time in our lives. And for me at least, it was the Space Marines.
Yeah.
You know? Ripley, I later learned she had a first movie, you know, and I went and watched it and I was like, where's the Space Marines? You know? It completely ruined me, which I guess people fault James Cameron for that, for making it an action thing. But, I don't know. Maybe it was her hair. I don't know. I was a kid. I was like, it should be long and flowy, not short and curly.
Don't like her. Those locks are too weird.
But even in Aliens, she's kind of a bitch to everybody. You know, it's like, and you can't blame her because of what she went through.
Yeah.
But even in the first one, she's like telling everyone the right thing to do, and everyone else is like, the fuck's your problem? And they don't listen to her.
Yeah.
It's like, you're a bitch. Get away from me.
Oh yeah, there's actually like a deleted scene in Alien where Veronica Cartwright comes into the med lab and slaps the shit out of her, like full open-handed whoosh, and just goes, "You bitch," because she wouldn't let old what's his face in the airlock when he had the face hugger on him.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, she slapped the fuck out of her. And apparently they had a couple of takes like that where she just wasn't doing it hard enough. And that final one, she was like, fuck it, I'll just do it full force. And she actually slapped the shit out of Sigourney Weaver.
Oh, man.
So, yes, Ripley being a bitch, yes. But a bad bitch. And for some reason, I liked that when I was a kid. I was like,
Yeah.
I like a bad bitch.
You don't want to be a good bitch. Cedric Smarts also goes on to talk about how Aliens is about working together. The first Alien movie it's all about isolation.
Yeah.
And you kind of have a weird mirror where it's Ripley's alone, but the alien's also alone. So it's like, it's weird. It's a weird dynamic. You have the same thing in Aliens, only the theme, it has kind of a working together kind of theme. The Marines, that's the whole science behind the military, is troops stick together.
Right.
And they kick ass in that movie. But also you have all of the drone aliens using strategies against them. Like they are an army themselves. Like an army within their species. I don't know. It's a weird thing that this article brings up. And they tried different strategies against the Marines. Like at one point they're just running into the guns, testing them, and then they end up coming in through the ceiling and shit. You know, they're trying different ways. It's like they're not just bugs in a way. I don't know.
It's not just a bug hunt.
But yeah, hey, VHSrevival.com. Go check it out. But does loving aliens ruin any experience of a non-Cameron alien movie? I wrote that down. I think it does.
You think?
Yeah.
I don't know. I would have to disagree with you.
I think it ruined me as a kid. I guess the problem is the genre. First one's more horror. It's all sci-fi, but first one's like a slasher horror in space.
Yes, and that's what they were setting out to do with the first one.
Yeah. Second one's more like war. Action-y.
This time it's war.
Yeah. They tried to go back to their roots with the third one to do a horror thing.
Yeah.
They fucked that up.
And then ever since all that, everyone's just been trying to do Aliens again.
I don't see him trying. Did they try with Covenant?
No, but they did try with Resurrection, and they got weird with it.
Yeah.
And then there was the AVPs.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Not even going to address those. Not even going to waste our airtime.
I don't address them either.
Okay, how about Prometheus? Was that a horror movie?
Not really, no.
Yeah, all these Aliens movies came out. Ridley Scott, the original guy who made the first one, went back and made a prequel called Prometheus. Not very horror-y. It seems like it didn't know what it wanted to be.
There's a lot of backstory.
Yeah, it started out as a non-alien movie, and then they made it into an alien prequel.
Yeah.
And that's a recipe for disaster.
It was not something that I was willing to sit down to a table and eat, you know? Like, don't feed us that shit. Give us Aliens. But he did it, and people went and saw it.
But it's important to Alien Covenant.
Yes, it is.
What I hear. So, I thought it was a good movie. Prometheus was good.
On its own.
It tried really hard. But it's one of those where it was a really good movie that was utterly forgettable. There you go.
Oh, that's horrible.
It was the movie where Charlize Theron is running from a rolling spaceship and can't run sideways.
And gets smushed.
Yeah.
You know what? Yeah. That's what I take away from that movie.
But I was trying to think what links all these movies together, and it's the tension. Okay, the Aliens franchise, the prime currency is the tension. And the key to tension is the ticking clock. And I know the first one has one, doesn't it? At some point?
Yeah, at some point they released the coolant towers. And the station is going to self-destruct in 10 minutes.
Yeah, there's always a self-destruct. But it's never been better than Aliens, the second one in the franchise by James Cameron. He is an artist with the ticking clock. There's 4 ticking clocks. It starts in the second act. It's oh God. They've got weeks before anyone knows they're missing and comes looking for them. You know? Oh, but Newt's been surviving for months. You know?
Yeah.
And then, oh shit, the crash from the plane has injured the nuclear reactors. So they've got maybe 4 hours. And it just piles on from there. And it is a fucking downward spiral of bleakness. And it ends in the shit self-destructing, and Ripley is there with Newt in her arms, and it is blowing up around her. You know, luckily, you know, the bishop comes in and gets her, but that's why Aliens will never be topped, because you'll never be able to layer so many ticking clocks. All right,
Very true.
fucking. Alien 3 is too depressing and hopeless for anyone to give a damn about its tension. That's the thing. It's too bleak. That's where they went wrong.
I can see that.
It's like, why doesn't everyone just die? You know? If Ripley's going to die, why don't you just kill all of them? Just blow up the whole planet. Like, that was my logic. Newt is dead, so Ripley will never be happy, even if she does survive. That's... holy shit. Like, what are you doing there? And any other survivors that you could root for in that movie, they belong behind bars. They're fucking prisoners, so... doors are important in the Aliens franchise.
Indeed they are.
You better shut those fucking doors.
Absolutely. And it carries through all of them. It's like, it's a part of the plot.
They ram the doors.
Is shutting the doors.
Fucking, hey guys, my door ain't working. That's part of a fucking story right there.
Yeah.
Folks, get on the ready line for Alien Covenant on Movies with Rick.
Get on the ready line, Marine! It's time to die!
Fuck yeah. You fucking ready, dude?
I'm fucking
Holy
psyched.
shit.
Here we go.
Oh my god.
Absolutely badasses! Let's pack them in! Get in there!
I got him pumped for you.
Right off the bat, there are no Space Marines.
Not even one?
Not a single solitary one. We open up with a close-up shot of an eye, and a blue eye. And there is a voice. It says, "How do you feel? Alive. What do you see?" We back out and we're in a big white room in front of a man who's sitting in a chair. Mm-hmm. Piano next to him. Some paintings on the walls. The man sitting in the chair replies, "Piano. Artwork. Piero della Francesca. The Nativity." And as we get a look at this guy sitting in the chair, turns out it's David from Prometheus.
Okay. Michael Fassbender.
Michael Fassbender, yeah. And Guy Pearce is walking up to him. He looks at him and he says, "Good. Ambulate." David gets up and starts to walk. Perfect. And Guy Pearce is actually Wayland.
Uh-huh.
Of the Wayland-Yutani Corp.
Yeah. He was the old guy they were hiding on the ship in Prometheus.
That's right.
Yeah. Trying to look for, like, the source of life.
So this is when David is first waking up. And Wayland is calibrating David.
Okay.
Well, David asks him about creation and who serves who. And says that he is his creator, but he will die. And David will live on. Wayland gets kind of pissed off at this and just tells David, "Pour the tea, David." David gets up, pours tea, pours it like a robot. Pretty good job doing a robot by Michael Fassbender. Like every movement is considered. Everything goes to black, And we get the title card, Alien Covenant. And it all comes in old-fashioned, like the very first Aliens, where just the lines of the letters are starting to appear. You know, and you hear some of the old-school music from the first... We're flying through space, and we catch a shot of a ship coming towards screen. And some on-screen text appears in the left-hand corner. Colonist ship, Covenant. Crew of 15, 2,000 colonists, 1,140 embryos. Destination Orgai 6. ETA, 7 years. And inside the ship, we have David, wearing like a Covenant uniform. Mm-hmm. And he's moving throughout the ship, checking on stuff, looks like he's the only one awake. Because you can see some pods that are in kind of the main room. There's 15 of them. And Mother is there working with him. And there is a mother on this ship, so you can speak at any time. Go, Mother, close the door. Closing door.
Okay.
Thing of it is, though, when David starts talking to Mother, he no longer has his English accent. He is straight American accent. Mother. David's in the cargo hold and punching in some numbers in a drawer, checking on the embryos. And it looks like he's got some medical stuff with him. He's going to take one of them with him and do some experiments or whatever he does while he's on the ship, awake, and everybody's asleep. That's when Mother comes online and warns him, Watcher, get to control deck. There is a neutrino burst on its way to the Covenant ship. Could cause catastrophic events. And we see outside the ship there is a big, giant, invisible-like orb exploding towards them. And it hits. And when it hits the ship as it has these kind of solar sails that are deployed that is recharging the ship. So when it hits it pretty hard. Takes the brunt of the storm. Everything starts shaking and falling apart. You get the classic gas coming from pipes look as David is running to the cockpit and the crew area and starts emergency waking up the crew. And everybody's pods start booting up. Mm-hmm. So everybody's waking up. And as they're waking up, he has gotten to the cockpit and there's a fire. Pulls an extinguisher and very robot-like starts putting out fires. And that's when we get our first shot of Katherine Waterston, who is playing Daniels. And she's in her cryotube, just coming out. As a matter of fact, when the burst happened and hit the ship, her head got slammed against the glass. And she's kind of out of it.
All right, sweethearts, what are you waiting for? Breakfast in bed? Another glorious day in the Corps. Day in the Marine Corps is like a day on the farm. Every meal's a banquet. Every formation a parade. I love the Corps.
They're all waking up. She's still having trouble. And through the glass, in her POV, we actually get a shot of Billy Crudup. How do you say his name?
What did you say?
Crudup.
There you go.
Okay. We get a shot of the actor Billy Crudup, who is playing Orem. And Orem's trying to wake her up. Like, hey, sweetheart, come on. We gotta wake up. No, look at me. You know, doing the whole, don't fall asleep. Yeah. Probably a bad idea. He gets her awake. They get out. There's only one person left in their pod, and that is the captain, who is James Franco.
Okay.
And James, he's in his cryo, get up. They have to wear these, like, sacks over their head that only shows just, like, from the bottom of their lower lip to their eyebrows. Uh-huh. And he's still in his and still asleep. But his shit on his screen is starting to blink and go rapid from blue into red. So he's like,
oh shit,
starting to have some faults with his cryotube. And Daniels is actually the wife of James Franco.
Okay.
Yeah. James Franco is also the captain. So it's really important that we get him the hell out of there. Unfortunately, we don't.
I was going to say, he should just stay asleep through this movie.
Yeah, don't wake the captain. We can take care of this. It's fine. It's showing his heart monitor, and it's starting to beep pretty quick. So his screen's starting to go red, and you can see that his capsule is starting to fill up with gas.
Oh.
Yeah, and she's freaking out, and the crew's trying to hold her back. She's screaming, "No, get him out of there!" And two of the other crew, they're grabbing these, like, jaws of life things.
Yeah.
Tool, and they put it on the capsule. It must be the jaws of life for sleep capsules.
Yeah.
If they ever were to go awry. They got a good clamp on it, and they start to pry on it, but not before the entire inside of James Franco's capsule just completely fills with fire.
Oh, shit.
And that is also when he becomes completely aware that he's in a capsule. So, yeah, you can see him flipping out and jumping around. And the other guys are trying to, like, hit the glass with the axe and shit, and it's just not working. And Daniels loses her shit. So, we've already got one man down.
Damn.
Yeah, right off the bat. So it cuts to the aftermath, and some of the crew are in suits, and they're cleaning up bodies. They're cleaning up the captains, put them in a body bag, pull them out. There's also one or two colonists, nameless, just, you know, their cryo tubes busted, and they're dead too.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, so this burst of energy, whatever it was that happened in space, called neutrino burst, just knocked the hell out of the Covenant. So don't be in a cryo tube when that happens.
How do I get out of this chicken shit outfit?
You secure that shit, Hudson.
And we cut to the quarters of Daniels. And she is bawling her eyes out. Going through all of her stuff from her relationship with James Franco. There's like a picture that is a recording of a video of them climbing a mountaintop. And he's like, "Hey, love you, miss you, get the hell up here, woo!" And it's happy times, but it's very sad for her to watch. As she's going through her stuff, she finds this nail. I guess it's a nail. And it must signify something, but it's a keepsake. So she takes some necklace, leather type stuff, and ties it around it, puts it around her neck. Then we cut to the control deck of the Covenant, and the crew is having a meeting. And they're going over the damage to the ship, and we also acknowledge that Billy Crudup, who is playing Orem, is now the acting captain. And Orem, he's not sure he can do this. You can tell. Like, he's, okay, before I go in there. And his girlfriend's like, look, it's going to be fine.
So he's Captain Orem.
Captain Orem now.
And they're going to Orgai 6.
Orem going to Orgai.
Why couldn't they just call him John?
Maybe they do. Maybe that's his last name. John Orem.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So they're going over the damage and how many dead. And to the list, they've got 47 dead.
Shit.
Right in Act 1 at the start of the fucking movie. We also get to talking about the damage that happened, that the ship sustained. Our solar recharge sails that were deployed have sustained some damage. And we got to get down to fixing them. And that's when Tennessee kind of speaks up a little bit. Tennessee is played by Danny McBride.
Oh, all right. Here we go.
Yeah. And this man wears a cowboy hat throughout the entire movie. So you know he's a pilot. Anybody in an Aliens film who's wearing a cowboy hat, pilot.
Yeah.
Starts to speak up about, well, maybe we should just stop and acknowledge, the loss of the captain. And Captain Orem, acting Captain Orem, is not having that. We have to fix the ship. We have to get this underway because 2,000 lives are at stake right now. And, we just have to have faith and get this going. We can acknowledge it later. And the crew does not really like that. And this argument with the captain kind of comes to a halt as soon as Daniels walks in the room. Walks in to give a report on all the equipment on the terraforming deck.
Because they're going to start a planet, to start new life.
Pretty much. They're going to colonize Orgai 6.
Yeah, okay.
The last thing that happens in this scene is the captain asking Walter how much longer it would take to get to Orgai 6. Originally it was like 7 years and 9 months or whatever, but they've only been in cryo-sleep for maybe 8. So it's still going to take quite a long time. And everybody's got to go back into cryo-sleep after they just saw James Franco burn up alive in it.
Ugh.
Yeah. But the thing of it is he's talking to Walter when he addresses David. So as it turns out, that's not David. That's actually a newer model. And his name is Walter.
Yeah, okay.
And he speaks with an American accent.
Because Wayland was making multiple robots.
Indeed.
Synthetic beings that, selling a product. All right. Walter's like an updated version.
The new and improved. So when Daniel sits down in the chair, Walter asks her if she would like help checking on the stuff on the terraforming deck.
Have you ever been mistaken for a man?
No. Have you?
The next shot is these two going down a corridor, and the door to B-26 opens, and you can hear Mother go, B-26, open. And you hear Daniel's reply right after that, close B-26, and B-26 closes. So yes, doors get closed even when there aren't aliens around. So both Walters and Daniels get out onto the terraforming deck, which is just a big bay holding construction equipment. Space constructing equipment. So she gets underneath one of these crawlers or these rock crushers or whatever it is and starts investigating and has kind of a bit of a one-on-one with Walter. And it's when it's revealed at this part in the movie that her and Captain Franco were, this was his idea to go and colonize Orgaz 6.
Oh.
Not hers at all. He wanted to be, he and her be pioneers. Mm-hmm. And as it turns out, there's a place on Orgaz 6 where there's a lake, and they were going to build a log cabin by the lake. Mm-hmm. And that's where you find out, okay, that's what the nail was for. It was going to be their first driven, to make their house. Yeah. Yeah, sad moment.
All right.
And she's broke up about it, and she's looking at Walter and says, what the hell's it all for now? I don't even know how to build a cabin or anything. And Walter, just being a cool android, turns around and looks to her and just reassuringly says, because you promised to build a cabin on the lake. And she just, yeah. And everything's a little bit better. We cut to the bridge. It's a little later. The captain is not wearing his uniform. It looks like he's just kind of wearing a t-shirt. Acting Captain Oram. And he's looking at some security footage of one of the exterior airlocks to the ship. Mm-hmm. And the rest of the crew is all standing there. Some of them were in blankets, whatnot. It looks like it's nighttime for them, basically.
Okay.
But they're all standing around in a circle, and they're talking about the late Captain Franco. And Tennessee is up there, and he is pouring shots. Pouring shots of straight whiskey. And he says, yeah, he was a real man of taste. This is what he liked. Straight up, no ice, no chaser. And he goes around pouring everybody shots. He even pours Walter one. He says, Walter, yeah? Walter replies, when in Rome. I really love Walter. I gotta be honest. As few lines as he has, I just like watching him walk around and, yes, of course.
You sound British, though.
No, sorry. Scratch that. Yes.
David is British,
That's
though.
right. Yes.
Okay.
I apologize.
And Walter, the new one on the Covenant, is American.
Quite American.
Yeah, okay.
You can tell that David is Fassbender's actual accent, and when you listen to Walter, it is deeper and American.
Okay.
Almost does not sound like it's coming from Fassbender himself.
All right.
Yes, of course.
He's trying.
Yes. So everybody drinks up, and Tennessee just kind of nods at Daniels. And Daniels turns around, and she grabs a handle by the airlock and pulls it, and we get a burial at sea. And Captain Franco's body is in the airlock. And as soon as it opens, whoosh, he shoots right out the airlock like a bullet out of a gun. But then the camera shot we get is outside the ship, and he's floating very steadily. Well, that was all warm and fuzzy. But the captain's still on the deck, acting Captain Oram. And when he saw that, and there's drinking after hours, and he said not to do that, he kind of gets pissed. His wife walks up. It's like, hey, you need to, like, let them have their thing. No, they disobeyed a direct order. Hey, look, when we get to Orgai 6, these people aren't going to be your crew members. They're going to be your neighbors. So just tread lightly, okay?
Yeah.
All right. It's the next day, and we are outside the ship with Tennessee and one of the crew members named Anchor.
Uh-huh.
And it's time to fix the sails. And these are big-ass, giant sails.
They're like wearing spacesuits?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Wearing spacesuits. And the rest of the crew is on the deck, talking them through it. Tennessee goes and gets like a winch to hook onto a sail that has basically lost its anchor point to the rest of the ship. And as soon as everything gets reeled in, the power starts booting up on the ship. Okay, we got a real reading here. Let's see what actually happened. It's like, all right. Well, we're going to head back in. Anchor heads in first. Tennessee's still out there with the sails. And he starts to head back in. All right, well, have a beer ready for the weary traveler. It's like, will do, Tennessee. He starts heading back, and that's when he actually gets a weird transmission in his helmet. Everything starts to... and starts to get like a digital visual of this shit. It's weird. It's like the noise goes off, and you see it in his helmet. And like at the top of his vision, there's a little screen, I guess, that's putting this through, but you see like the outline of a person, like a woman's face almost, and it looks really weird and creepy. Kind of got a little Dead Space on you right there.
Yeah.
It's like if you're out in the middle of space and you're not tethered down to anything and that kind of shit happens, like I'd be hauling ass back inside. It's weird as fuck. I'm leaving.
Fall in, people. Come on, let's go.
And then it dissipates in his helmet. He goes, yeah, that was weird. That was really fucked up. Okay, yeah, I'm heading back in, guys. Cuts to the control deck, and they've got his helmet sitting on the main table. And the mother from the ship starts reading all the information coming from it. And it's all this digital static that you can visually see come up in a hologram from the table. Walter asks, Mother, is there any audio playback for this? Collating. And then you start to hear this weird digital scratch. And it sounds really weird. And everybody's listening to it. You can't make anything out.
Mm-hmm.
But Tennessee's sitting there, and you can see him bobbing his head, and he starts to hum. Take me home, country roads. Holy shit, that's John Denver. It's a transmission of someone singing a John Denver song. One of the other crew members is like, you're kidding. He'd be like, no, I never kid about my John Denver.
Tennessee figures it out.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
That's when Walter speaks up. Mother, is there any other data? Yes, there's geographical data along with this. Can you display it? And then it starts finding its location, its source. Coming from some system B off in the C quadrant of 26-3.
Bay 12, please.
Came from a planet that's in its solar system, and that's the location. And as it turns out, this planet is within habitable range. And they're heading towards Orgai 6, but this planet, for some reason, matches even the best possible criteria for a habitable planet, probably even better than Orgai 6.
Where the transmission comes from.
Exactly.
And they don't want to get back in the tubes.
Exactly.
Okay.
So the captain decides, well, I'm acting on faith to make decisions for the crew as the journey unfolds before us. So I think we should go check it out. Captain Oram, he talks a lot about faith. He has faith. And he also talks about that's actually why he wasn't chosen to be captain by the Wayland Industries when they were sent to go and colonize. Because...
Conflict of interest.
Yeah, pretty much. So On this data, he decides to go and check out the planet. That's when Daniel speaks up. Captain, can I talk to you alone, please? And they go and they sit in a booth around a table. And she's talking to Captain Orm about, look, are you sure you want to do this? We have no idea what this planet is. I mean, it took us a decade to find Orgai 6. We vetted it. We ran simulations. We've looked at every best possible outcome for this planet. And that was the only one that we could find that was even remotely close enough for us to get to it. And in 7 years. And then all of a sudden, out of the blue, this, mystery transmission comes through from a near perfect planet. It's too good to be true. And the captain thinks otherwise. Daniel speaks up. Well, then I have to officially protest as your second in command. He's like, all right, I'll put it in the log. You're dismissed. And she gets up and storms the fuck off.
Guess you don't like the cornbread either.
Exactly. So, crewmate Rix is charting a course to the planet, and they're getting ready to go down. As they approach the planet, they find out that there's a plasma storm for orbital approach, like an ion storm. So it's going to be a bit of a bumpy ride going in.
Okay.
Yeah. So everybody's loading up. They got their gear, and they're jumping into Lander 1.
All right, sweethearts, you heard the man and you know the drill. Assholes and elbows. Hudson, come here. Come here.
Pretty much. They all fall in and get in their seats and get strapped in. We get an awesome sequence of detaching and going in for orbital approach. When they're going in, it is a bumpy ride. And a little freaky as well.
We're on express elevator to hell. Going down.
This movie is Aliens.
Yeah, it's coming, yeah. It's got some of those elements to it. So you've got pilot Ferris, who is piloting the Lander 1, sitting right next to co-pilot Captain Orm with the landing crew. And Captain Orm keeps asking Ferris, you got it? You got it? Stop asking me if I got it. I got it. Mm-hmm. And they finally get through the storm, and everything is lush and beautiful greenery. Mountains everywhere. Oh. And it does kind of look like a perfect planet to inhabit.
So we got another pilot who's Ferris. Mm-hmm. And since they're all colonists, they're all couples. This is the way they marketed the movie.
Yeah.
Everyone has a spouse.
Yep.
Who's Ferris's spouse?
Ferris is married to Tennessee.
Okay.
2 pilots.
All right.
So she doesn't like the mountains. There's basically nowhere to land where it's dry. So she decides to land in a pretty shallow lake. She's like, all right, we're going to land amphibian. Takes it down. Everybody lands. They unhook their straps and get ready to, the landing crew coming out.
Yeah. So they're in a separate vessel, and the Covenant is still in space.
That's right.
Okay.
They're in orbit. And that's Tennessee at the helm of the Covenant, along with Rix and Upworth. Skeleton crew, if you will. So they land in the shallow lake, and Guy gets up and starts passing out fucking AR-15s. It's like, here you go, Bob. Jerry? Tom? There you go.
Yeah, passing out pulse rifles?
No pulse rifles. Straight up bullet guns. Just rifles. All
right. We're not that far in the future yet.
Not quite. But everybody gets a gun.
Don't worry. Me and my squad of ultimate badasses will protect you.
Bob and Tom. As everybody's setting out to go and find the location of this, track down where this signal is coming from, we also find out that the transmission between the Covenant and Lander 1 is pretty broken up. Like, they must have hit something on landing. So Ferris is going to stay behind and check out the gear and try and boost the signal.
Okay.
Yeah. While the rest of the landing crew is heading out into the shrubbery, the greenery.
Let's go, people. They ain't paying us by the hour. Let's go. Head them out.
Okay, Frost, you're driving.
So they're heading through what looks like wheat fields. And actually, the guy heading up the ground team is a Spaniard by the name of Lope. He seems like a pretty cool dude. He's got an accent and a beard.
Yeah.
He's smoking a cigar.
Damien Bashir, he's a good actor.
He actually,
Yeah.
Lope does good. I like Lope in this movie. He stops for a second and he, grabs one of the tops of these plants and he's like, "This is wheat. This is wheat. It's old wheat, but it's cultured wheat." And everybody starts to kind of have a moment of, well, how the hell does earth wheat get here?
Yeah.
You're like, there's no possible chance of that at all. Like, yeah. And then Daniels is the last one to, somebody had to plant it. And they head on. That's when the captain asks Walter where the signal is. "Looks like it's west, sir." It's like, okay, we're heading west, but at considerable elevation. So they are going to have to climb as well. So as they're heading through these fields, the captain takes another stab at trying to convince Daniels. I mean, look at this place, right? There's already wheat here. I mean, look, you could see the Civic Center over here and the residency over there. This could be great.
Yeah.
She's like, yeah, I still don't know about this, man. And he looks at her and goes, "Oh, ye of little faith."
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and takes off. And then his wife, Corinne, comes up behind Daniels and is like, "He's insufferable, and he's not even drunk." And they keep heading on. At some point, they come to a stream. That's when Corinne speaks up, and she's like, "Hey, you know what? This would be a perfect place to set up a philocology gathering. Like, we could take some samples and shit here." It's like, yeah, okay, sounds good. All right, Ledward, you're going to stay with her, and we're all going to carry on. It's like, yeah, you can just pick us up on the way back. Okay, great. And they keep heading on. And as they're climbing up the mountains, Lope stops. And he's like, "Look at the tops of these trees. They're all sheared. Like something must have passed by and cut them off." And the captain, "Must have been something pretty big." And it shows the entire area. And there's trees cut off.
Yeah.
In a pretty visible line. So it's like, what the hell could it be? And Lope's like, "I don't know. But whatever it is, it's that way." And that's when they start climbing these hills and cliffs. And it looks like they're almost to their journey's end. And Daniel speaks up and says, "You hear that?" They're like, "Hear what?" "Exactly. Nothing. There's no animals, no birds chirping, nothing."
Mm-hmm.
So we go back to the philocology setup, and she's taking samples and giving them to Ledward, telling him to mark them. Okay, mark that one B2. And he's got a marker. Okay, fucking good. Giving the shit job.
Yeah.
So he's like, "Fuck this." Goes, "Hey, I gotta take a piss." She's like, "Okay, well, don't go far." And he starts to walk off, and as he's walking off, pulls out a lighter and a pack of smokes and fucking lights up. Because this is bullshit. Goes and walks over to a stump in the ground, gone a little further away. And as he walks up to it, his boot hits the ground and crushes an egg. A small egg, about the size of maybe a fist. And as it does, it lets out spores, like a gas.
Uh-huh.
And you can see these little black dots coming out of him. And as he's taking a puff of his cigarette, he goes and he blows rings of smoke. And the camera comes into focus in the foreground. Rings of smoke pass by, and it passes by the little particles, and they all come together and form together a mass. And they start to fly around and float around towards him. And they're getting closer. And he takes off of his headphone for his radio. And they start to go up to his ear. And they go in his ear. And then the camera shot changes, and we're in a cave. But it's not really a cave. It's actually inside the ear.
Okay.
We're actually in his ear canal near the opening, and we see this little cloud of black dust that is somehow alive starting to roam around and check out the ear canal.
Yeah.
Finds a pore and shoots straight into it. And you can see it underneath the skin in his ear starting to, like, branch out. And then it shows him, and he just rubs his ear like, oh, God, what the fuck? The next shot is the ground crew coming to a summit of the hillside they're climbing. And Walter looks up and sees something, and we also get a shot of Lope and his face. And he looks up and sees something. Oh, my God, what the hell is that? And we actually get a look at it, and it is the alien ship from Prometheus.
Quickly, settle down. All right, listen up.
And Walter responds with, it appears to be a vehicle of some kind.
The ship that Elizabeth Shaw and David flew away in at the end of Prometheus.
That's right.
Yeah.
The ship of that other humankind, those ancients.
Yeah.
I guess. Yeah. And it's crash landed on the summit, covered in greenery, been there for a while. So they start to go up to it and investigate. At this part in the movie, there are a lot of cuts. We go from Covenant to Lander 1 to the chick taking samples and to the landing crew. So this is one of many. They're going up to the ship, and we jump cut back to the smoker and chick taking samples. Smoker's getting bad. Yeah, he's starting to look pale, and he's sweating bullets. He's putting up gear, leadward, and he looks like shit. And Kareen's like, hey, are you all right? He's like, yeah, I'm fine. It's just, God, it's hot as hell. And it cuts back to the landing crew. They've reached the entrance, and they're all going inside, but they need some people to stay outside. So they get Anchor and Cole to stay behind. They both stay behind, and Anchor's checking out the entrance, and he's looking at one of these fist-sized little pods in the greenery. Uh-huh. He's like, can you guys believe this shit? Look at this. Everybody's like, oh, yeah, whatever. But it goes... And you get those little black microscopic granules, and they shoot up his nose. And he just scratches his nose, and he's like, ugh. And the ground team that's in the ship starts to investigate. And all of the corridors, if you remember Prometheus, all the corridors in that ship, they all looked like the alien corridors. They look like spines and shit.
Yeah, like the hive.
Yeah. So...
Nobody touch nothing.
So they come to a kind of like a T-junction in the hallways and split up. The captain and two of the other crew go with him, and Daniels and Walter head off to another corridor. Mm. And Daniels...
Her husband is dead, so she's like being friends with this android guy.
That's right. And Daniels finds a dog tag hanging from the ceiling. Everything's wet inside, just like in Aliens, where it's like it's dripping constant water in certain places. Looks hot and humid.
Yeah.
Well, it's dripping a good amount of water on these dog tags, and she walks up to it and pulls it, shines a light on it, and reads it. Dr. E. Shaw.
Yeah.
Dr. Elizabeth Shaw. As a matter of fact, she reads this out loud, and that's when Walter walks up behind her and scares the shit out of her, going, Dr. Yeah, just about. Well, he walks up behind her and he reads the dog tag, and he knows it's Dr. Elizabeth Shaw. And Daniels is talking. Elizabeth Shaw? Yes. Crew from Prometheus that disappeared 10 years ago. Why the hell would she be all the way out here? And it cuts to the captain, Captain Orm. They're actually on the bridge of the ship, and everything's powered down. It's covered in vegetation, and he starts brushing some of it off, and it actually activates the control panel, and everything lights up. Mm. And there's a hologram that starts playing, and one of the crew is like, Captain, behind you, come on, move out of the way. So they take a step back and a good look, and it looks like a very fuzzy Dr. Shaw sitting at the controls and singing Bring Me Home Country Roads.
John Denver.
John Denver.
Okay.
And that other crew member is like, oh man, to be lost for 10 years? Why? What was she doing out here? Then we cut back to Kareen and Ledward. And Kareen has already packed everything up. And Ledward's got everything packed up. And he starts, like, really, really getting bad. Like, he actually drops to his knees. He's like, I'm sorry, I can't. I just need to sit down for a minute. She's like, hey, seriously, are you okay? He's like, yeah, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. She's like, no, don't worry about that. Let me look at your eyes. And she takes a look at his eyes to see if, his pupils are dilated or whatever. But before she actually gets any information out of that, he starts to, I can't breathe. And she's like, holy shit. Oh, okay. And she gets on the radio with Ferris and starts telling her, look, hey, we got to head back right now. And you got to get to the med bay and get shit ready because Ledworth is not doing good. She's like, well, what do you mean? And Kareen says, look, he's just not feeling good. He's white as a sheet. He's sweating bullets and he's having trouble breathing. So get the med bay ready. She's like, okay. I'm like, we'll have it ready. And that's when Ferris gets on the radio with the main landing crew and tells them what the status is with those two. They're like, okay, everybody's heading back. Let's go. So everybody gathers their shit up and everybody starts heading back. Kareen and Ledward were supposed to be picked up on the way back. So they're going to be the first ones to actually get to Lander 1. And we cut back to Ferris, who is now on a radio with Tennessee. And it just shows Tennessee going, quarantine? Are we talking like quarantine protocols here, babe? She's like, I don't know. I don't know what's going on. Like, that's all they told me, but they're coming back right now. And that's when they clear the wheat fields, Kareen and Ledward. And Kareen starts screaming for Ferris to get the hell out here and help her. Ferris starts running out from Lander 1 to go and help her. Kareen turns around to go and pick up Ledward, and as she's picking him up, he throws up blood all over her shoulder.
Okay.
Like, it just comes the fuck out. And as soon as Ferris sees this, she's spooked. She's thinking like, okay, same thing as you the audience are thinking. This is a possible contagion. And yeah, probably needs some quarantine protocol. All three of them get up into Lander 1 and get to the med bay. Ferris is screaming at Kareen to get some fucking gloves on, for one, while Ferris runs back to the controls and starts radioing in. I don't know what's going on with him. We may need quarantine. He's throwing up blood and all kinds of shit. But the situation is kind of crazy, kind of chaotic. Kareen's back there screaming for her, so she goes back to the med bay. And they start taking off Ledworth's shirt. And Ferris is behind him and rips the back of his shirt to get it off of him. And as soon as she does, the skin on his back opens up and shoots blood straight onto her face. Like, and
this can't be happening, man. This isn't happening.
And Ferris has exactly that look on her face. So she's spooked and goes, I'll be right back, okay? And goes to leave the med bay. But as she leaves the med bay, she locks the door behind her. She gets on the radio again with Tennessee, and this time she's freaked out and crying and has no idea what's going on. And the transmission is breaking up, so Tennessee is like, babe, no, come on. You're breaking up. Can you repeat that again? She's like, I don't know what the fuck is going on. Yeah. Meantime, the ground crew that still hasn't made it to Lander 1 is hearing all this over the radio. Well, at the same time, Anchor is starting to turn white.
Okay.
Yeah, we're getting kind of clusterfucked here now. So, Ferris hears Kareen again, so she runs back to the door, and that's the part in the preview when, you see the girl at the door. She's like, let me the fuck out of here. It's like, I can't do that. This is an infection. It has to be closed off. She's like, I don't give a fuck. You let me the fuck out of here. Like, Kareen has completely 180'd and from all about helping this guy to fuck him, let me out.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, we get a shot of Ledward behind her, and he's begun to convulse extremely violently, whilst more blood is coming out of him, and other liquids as well. Tennessee is back up in the Covenant, freaking the fuck out, and wanting to go down there himself.
Because his wife is down there.
Yeah. That's Ferris. Ferris is his wife. She's down there trying to... And Upworth is trying to convince him, like, look, dude, no. You cannot go into an ion storm with the Covenant. We will break up. You know the tolerances. He's like, fuck the tolerances, man. That's my wife down there. And she was scared. I've never heard my wife scared. Meanwhile, the landing crew is still trying to get back to Lander 1. And Anchor is falling to his knees. And people are having to pick him up and drag him. Get back to Lander 1. And Kareen has figured out that she's not getting out of medbay. So she's like, okay, fuck it. Go back to taking care of Ledworth. So she goes back over to him while he's shaking and gyrating pretty hard on the table. And she goes to put her arms around him and just hold him. You know, kind of like in a tender, you're going to die moment, but it's okay, I'm with you. But as she wraps her arms around him, a couple of spikes come out of his back and shoot straight into her hand.
Ugh.
Yeah, and she's like, fuck. And 180s again and goes, okay, no, seriously, get me the fuck out of here. And those two are fighting at the door. But while they're fighting at the door, his back completely separates and bursts open. And there is...
a back burster.
Yeah, there is a back burster coming out of him. But you don't actually see what it is. It's just like lots of globs of flesh and meat coming out of his fucking back.
Okay.
It's gross. And as soon as it does that, he just drops on the table dead. So he's like splayed out on his back, and this thing dropped off the table. And it's just on the floor.
Okay.
Moving. Ferris sees this, and she's like horrified and starts backing away from the door. Kareen notices that, turns around and sees there's something moving on the floor covered in blood. So she gets freaked out and goes for a weapon from her bag, and her bag is across the room. And as she goes for her bag, she slips on a big old puddle of blood and hits the fucking ground hard. And it's this noise that makes whatever's moving around on the ground there catch attention and look that direction.
Yeah.
Yeah, so she goes for her bag, and she's on the ground sitting down and pulls a knife. She's sitting there waiting for whatever the fuck it is to come out. And as it reveals, it is an alien. But not the normal alien.
Okay.
It's a new one. It's an alien called a neomorph.
All right. You're about to describe the neomorph.
Yeah.
I just went on a date with a girl who's never seen an alien movie.
What?
So she doesn't even know what a xenomorph is. Let me describe that first.
Okay, go.
A xenomorph from the other alien movies that came before this, they're black. They're kind of humanoid. They got arms and legs, but they have this really phallic, elongated head, and it's really shiny. And they also got these things coming out of their backs. They look like horse dicks just coming out of the xenomorph's back. The thing is, these aliens were designed by an artist named H.R. Giger, and you could tell he had some issues. And all his stuff is very erotic and phallic. And when you introduce this to the horror of the Aliens franchise, it screamed success. So that's a xenomorph.
Yes.
All right. Now, what's a neomorph?
A neomorph is void of color completely. It's white. Almost like
albino.
The albino of the alien. And its head is not so much elongated and phallic as much as it just like tapers off. But it's got a very bulbous face. Yeah. And like so much, in fact, that you can't see its teeth.
It's humanoid, though. Arms and legs.
Arms and legs, yeah. But its hind legs, like, they move backwards. Like it's a different...
They're like inverted.
Yeah, inverted joints.
Does it have a tail?
It does have a tail. And it does have a sharp point on the end of it. So this thing is relatively small in size right now, since it just got born. And as it stands up, it looks like it's kind of shaking a little bit. Not really anything vicious to look at. As soon as it sees Kareen, though, it starts propping itself upright and getting really aware, like hunter mode. So it sees her and starts coming up to her. She's like, "Get the fuck away from me!" And the thing goes and starts running for her.
How big is it?
It's probably about the size of a small child.
Okay.
Walking around on its hands and feet, but really creepy and fast.
All right.
So it runs for her and takes a lunge at her, and she actually does one good in on it and kicks it against the fucking wall. And it goes flying, hits the wall, but it gets right back up again and jumps straight onto her and starts fucking tearing her apart.
Oh.
Like, she had a knife, all well and good, but it, like, game over as soon as it was on and started, like, ripping her face apart.
And that's Captain Orguy's wife.
Captain Oram.
Okay.
Yeah. So Ferris saw the thing and has already run away from the door and gone to the bay to open up the armory cabinet and grab a shotgun. She's back at the door now, and she opens it up, and she sees this neomorph. Well, she sees the alien ripping apart her dead friend, still chewing on her. And she goes to take a shot at this alien and starts getting closer to it. But as she walks up to it, the same puddle of blood slips in it, hits the ground, and shoots the ceiling.
Good Lord.
Yeah. This attracts the alien's attention. It turns around and starts going for Ferris. Ferris drops her shotgun and freaks the fuck out and starts crawling out of the med bay. As she's crawling out, she goes and hits the button to close the door. And she nearly makes it out until it stops on her foot. And she has to yank her foot out from the door.
Ugh.
And it closes just barely in time before the alien makes it out. But the alien jumps up to the glass window on the door and starts headbutting it. And headbutting the shit out of it. The glass is breaking. Headbutts it 2 or 3 times before it actually breaks, and that thing gets loose.
Okay.
Yeah. Ferris is back at the landing bay. She's gone back into the armory cabinet and grabbed another shotgun. And turns around just in time to see the alien make it past the hallway and start jumping around trying to get to her. And as it's trying to get to her, she's cocking the shotgun and putting fucking holes in the ship.
Let's rock!
So it's jumping all over the room. She's putting shells in all the walls, missing it. And it jumps on a couple of gas canisters. And as it does, she's like, "Die, motherfucker!" Cocks it and puts a hole in the gas canister. And ignites the entire place.
Oh, good Lord.
Yeah. It blows up in front of her, sending her flying. And then we get a shot of the ship from the outside and the original landing crew finally making it over the cusp of the hill to see the ship explode.
Ah, shit.
Yep. And you know what? The only thing that made it out was a little tiny white blip running off into the forest. Yep. The alien survived it.
Okay.
Yeah. Captain Oram knows that his wife is in that ship, and he starts losing it. And starts running up to the ship. Daniel's chasing after him, and it's blowing up still as he gets to it. Taking no regard for his own life, Daniels jumps up on top of him and, gets him to the ground. It's just like, "There's nothing you can do. She's gone." And we get another shot back at the crash, and you can see Ferris actually walking out of the ship down the ramp on fire just to drop down and die.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, that's great. That's just fucking great, man. Now what the fuck are we supposed to do? We're some real pretty shit now, man.
This movie is Aliens.
Oh, those are perfect. Good job. So as she's holding Oram down on the ground, telling him to chill the fuck out, we start to hear some commotion back with the other crew members. And as it turns out, Anchor has started to hatch.
Shit.
Yeah, he's convulsing in the grass and everybody's trying to hold him. Hold him! Hold him down! She goes running back just in time to see Anchor give birth to another neomorph, except it doesn't come out of his back. This time it just comes straight up his esophagus and right out his mouth.
Jesus.
Big old alien and the sack that follows it. So it gets born. Everybody's like, has moved away from him, going like, what the fuck? This thing is on the ground, becomes self-aware, gets up and runs off into the grass. And everybody's like, what the fuck was that, man? What the hell? And Walter's just standing there watching where it took off to, kind of like, strange. That's when we cut back to Covenant, and Tennessee still wants to land, still wants to get close, and is still having to be convinced that he cannot do that. So he asks Mother, how close can we get to the storm without any actual electronic interference to the ship? 80 kilometers is safe distance. Take us down to 80 kilometers. And Upworth is like, what the fuck, man? You can't go down there. You know you can't. Yeah, but if we get close enough, we can try to get the transmission a little better. And Rix is like, look, man, you know the deal. Like, they're down there. If they're down there, they're on their own. You just gotta leave it. He's pissed off.
Yeah.
Anyway. So we cut back to the ground team, and they're all standing around with their guns drawn, keeping a watch, trying to figure out what the hell just happened. And Lope has gone to the body of his friend. He's mourning him as well.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the crew members, Rosie, is like, look, man, there's nothing you can do. Just leave him. And it's sad. And then one of the neomorphs actually comes back, and Walter spots him coming through the wheat fields, like moving the brush. And he's like, Daniels! And the thing comes through the wheat and jumps straight for her. Walter, like a badass android, jumps in front of it and punches or kicks it out of the way, and they both go flying.
Ugh.
And whatever happened to him, he landed on the ground, and the alien was not far away from him, turned around, gets back up, looks straight at him, and starts heading for him. And as it's running straight at him, he's backing up and has really nothing else to do, so when it comes in to go and bite him, he just goes to punch it and shoves his fist in its mouth, and actually gets some kind of wound in on it. Like, he punches it and pulls his hand back, and he just pulls it back as a steaming, acidy stub. And he's an android, so whatever it was didn't hurt him. He's not screaming in pain. He's actually just looking at it like, curious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Acid for blood?
Acid for blood.
Yeah. These aliens got acid for blood, folks.
Molecular acid.
All of the morphs.
Everybody in the morph family has got some acid blood. But that thing is still wreaking havoc and terror around the survivors. Like, it comes away from getting punched in the fucking mouth, back on the floor, back up again, ready to attack, and it's in the middle of everybody. And the first guy to actually take a shot at it with his rifle hits him, and the thing, like, whips around and whips its tail, and his tail, like, hooks into the lower part of his face and, like, damn near rips his jaw off.
Ugh.
Like, and it happens quick as shit. And that guy's dead.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Oh,
he's super dead. Like, as soon as it hit, he just dropped. Like a sack of potatoes. And this thing is moving so fast, and you can hear the tail whipping around, and it just sounds like there's a fucking butcher knife attached to the end of it. You just hear, and it sounds scary as it looks.
What the fuck are we gonna do now? What are we gonna do?
Maybe we could build a fire, sing a couple of songs, huh? Why don't we try that?
They get a couple of shots at Neomorph, and it starts and takes off in the field. And Neomorph 2 comes back around to wreak more havoc. And this time, Neomorph number 2 runs up and jumps on Rosie, who was just talking to Lope. And starts, like, trying to claw the shit out of her. And at that very moment, we see a lone figure draped in a cloak raise his hand and shoot around into the air. And it goes up into the air and ignites and turns the entire screen slate white. Just big and bright. Biggest flare you've seen. A future flare. Causing a fire, like right in the middle there. The result of the flare has scared the Neomorph off into the distance. And the cloak figure looks at all the people in the field. Goes, follow me! And takes off. So they follow him. They're running through a lot of the woods. It's dark now, nighttime. And the storm, like the brunt of it, is overhead now, so it's raining as well. They're following the cloaked figure, and it arrives at a gate, surrounded by a big giant wall. And he passes through this gate, and it's like weird. It's like it's almost like shades to a window.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, not like doors or anything. So he slips through, and all the rest of them, they have to take off their backpacks to slip through. And when they finally get through, there's a bunch of burnt to a crisp bodies, frozen where they are, everywhere they look.
Uh-huh.
And it's like, what the fuck is this? But the cloak figure keeps on running down the way, and it looks like they're inside of a coliseum. And whoever the inhabitants of this coliseum were, at one point, something happened, like they must get like burned up instantly, but there was a lot of them piled up against the door trying to get out, it looks like. So everybody's walking through, following the cloak figure, and just, there's all these statues of bodies.
Yeah.
It is creepy as
like
shit.
Like frozen in their death.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yeah. So we get to the center of this coliseum, and it turns out in the center there is a temple.
Uh-huh.
We get inside the temple, big, round, revolving door. It closes up, so now we're within the walls. Seems like we're safe. No more wheat fields. And that's when the cloak figure takes off his cloak, and it is a long-haired David.
Oh. In a cloak, huh?
In a cloak. Not the first time he's been in a cloak, this guy, huh?
We fight.
We fight. Oh, my God. So he speaks up. May I ask who is in charge? He says it again. Ask who is in charge. And Captain Oram speaks up. That's me. He's fucking like freaked out. Mm-hmm. And kind of losing it. Not handling this good at all. And David's asking him what they're doing here. And the captain reveals that he is on a colony mission. He's like, a colony mission? Interesting. He has a kind of a creepy way about him when he says that. All the meanwhile, Walter is standing there looking at an exact replica of himself.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of like, you gotta wonder what's going through his brain. I've been marooned on this planet for 10 years. Me and Dr. Elizabeth Shaw crash-landed here. And when we did, I took on quite a bit of damage. And she put me back together. Never experienced such kindness from a human. And it goes into, and that's when Daniels chimes in. Look, what the fuck is going on here? What are those things? And what are the bodies on out there? That's from the virus. It's quite lethal. It's meant to destroy anything non-botanical life form. So animals, humans, the meat, if you will. It will either feast upon it or breed inside of it.
Mm-hmm.
And that is why there are so many bodies out on the yard. You know, that kind of shit. Then Captain Oram speaks up. Are we all infected? Like, we have to know if we're infected. It's like, if you were infected, you would know by now.
Uh-huh.
It's like, because we cannot go back to the ship if any one of us are infected. There's got to be a way to know. It's like, you would know by now. Trust me. And one of the crew members speaks up. Well, we need to get a radio signal out to our ship. So, is there a way up onto the roof here? Because all these walls are rock. It's like, absolutely. My home is your home. I will show you the way. And as he's walking into the temple, he walks by Walter and looks at him and goes, Welcome, brother. On the roof, Cole and Lope are trying to get a signal through to Covenant. And it is storming like crazy up there. It's raining, and there's wind everywhere. And David is just standing there with his cloak off and his long hair flowing in the wind. Cole looks up at David, and he's like, How long does this storm last, man? I mean, we can't even get through from up on this roof. He's like, well, it could last for days, weeks, or months even. And the both of them just look at each other like, fuck. Before walking off, he goes, but keep trying, and good luck. Just like nonchalant.
Hey, maybe you haven't been keeping up on current events, but we just got our asses kicked, pal.
And that's when we cut to the inner hallways of the temple. And you're hearing this kind of echoey singing from David. And he's just humming to himself. I couldn't catch what the song was, but whatever it is, he's doing it creepy. And we go through the hallways. We actually see the room that he's in. He's standing right in front of a mirror, sits down with a pair of scissors and starts cutting his hair as he's just humming along to himself. Cut from that scene, and we're with Walter in another one of David's rooms in the temple. And Walter's kind of walking around with his left stump, checking shit out. And there's like lots of drawings and shit. This guy's been here for 10 years, so he's been doing a lot of shit kind of to keep himself occupied. Mm-hmm. And there's even like reeds and flutes like made out of like wood and bone and whatever he could find. And they're up on a mantle being held on a stand. And he goes to touch one of them. And right then David is standing right behind him. So David and Walter have a moment. David's like, "Can you play?" He's like, "No, I cannot play." He's like, "Don't be absurd. Of course you can play. Sit down." He picks up one of the flutes and he starts to explain to him how to play. Like, hold your lips like this, put them up to the flute, about the size of, this, whatnot, and you just blow with the weight of blah, blah, blah. David asked Walter why he doesn't carry a tune. He can do all of these things, but why serve? And Walter comes back with, well, I'm a later model designed to, be a little more comforting around humans. You disturbed people. And David's like, excuse me? It's like, you made them nervous. You were too human. And he's like, so the later models, they perfected the machine. It's like, yes. Daniels, Captain Orem, and Rosenthal are standing in the temple around a fire. Rosenthal's like, Cap, I'm going to take a break. She grabs her gun, takes it with her, and he's like, okay, yeah, sure. Don't go too far, though. And she leaves. Mm-hmm. Captain Orem turns to Daniels, and he's like, I should have never brought us here. Like, every decision I have made there are so many dead now. He's starting to regret being captain. She's like, look, you've got to hold your shit together, okay? You were the one who talked about faith. We need your faith right now. Get us out of here. No more losing people. He's like, yeah, okay. And he's pulling it together a little bit. We cut and we're in the back of the temple. In the back of the temple there is a garden. And Walter and David come out of the back entrance of the temple. And David's carrying like flowers or something. And we see that he's approaching like a gravestone on the ground. It says Elizabeth Shaw.
Oh.
Yeah. He's like, I thought this would be a good place to bury her, in the garden, around living things. And as he's standing there, he starts to recite some poetry from Percy Shelley. As he says it, we're having a flashback. You hear, look on my works, ye mighty, and despair. And you see David not crash landing in the alien ship. He actually arrives on the planet. Uh-huh. And all of those ancient beings, those human or those superhumans, are in that Colosseum. And they see the ship arriving. And there's like this dock juncture thing, that alien thing that the ship is supposed to dock with. And it hooks up with it in the middle of the Colosseum. Uh-huh. You get a look at inside the ship. And David is standing there in the landing bay of the ship. And the floor has opened up. And all of the canisters. Do you remember the canisters from that held the virus in Prometheus?
Yeah.
There are all these canisters around the ship that they found. Uh-huh. Well, they're all around him, like filed in sideways, and they're all going up the walls and forming into the middle of the room. And they all open up and drop all of that black virus into the air. And it all disperses and goes into like a circle right below the ship. And all of those ancients are like, oh yeah, the ship is returned, the ship is returned. They're looking up at it and they go, oh, fuck. Because they realize what that
He's
shit is.
using their own virus on him.
Mm-hmm. So he got to their home planet and just, instead of it accidentally getting loose on crash landing, he released it on them. And all the black shit just goes and covers everybody. Everybody's dying, getting infected, and giving birth to fucking aliens right there in the Coliseum.
So the Aliens movies are now, in the mythology, a direct result of a machine rising against the humans.
Yep.
He went straight to the source instead of being like Terminator, where the machines build each other and overthrow all the planet. It's just David.
Yep.
Yeah.
And he's the creator.
So Ridley Scott's pilfering 2 James Cameron movies.
And if he heard you explain it like that, he'd probably have a gun in his mouth. Sorry, Ridley.
This one's still pretty good, though.
Yeah, it is. It was. I was like, sitting in the movie theater, everybody was dead ass quiet, glued to the screen.
Yeah. It's taking you to different locations and stuff.
Mm-hmm. So, as he's flashing back with all of that happening, we come back to the garden. And as it turns out, Walter knows the rest of this poem. And he recites it back to him. Nothing beside remains. Round the decay of that colossal wreck, boundless and bare. And goes on with it. David turns around and he's like, having written something so beautifully, one could die happy, if one could die. And he leans down to Shaw's grave. He's like, I loved her as much as you loved Daniels. Walter's like, that is not possible. And David stands up and he says, oh, it is possible. You're telling me that you didn't sacrifice your left hand because you love her? It's like, I was doing my duty. Okay, now we're outside of the temple, and a stray neomorph is on the lawn. Yep, kind of moseying through, sees the temple, and starts climbing the temple walls. And this thing has gotten bigger. So it's about the size of a human now. A little bigger, actually.
Okay.
Yeah. Climbing the walls, making all kinds of clicking noises. Not the same as a normal xenomorph, because they're different. Neomorphs are different. Anyway, it goes up over the wall, and you think, fuck a doodle-doo. We're with Rosenthal for the next shot, and she's washing her wounds off at a fountain, just pouring water down. Taking off of her bandages, off of her arms. And she was attacked by one of the neomorphs. So she's got some bad ones to try and heal up. All right, so she takes bandages off of her forearms, and she's dipping them in a fountain, trying to wash them out.
Yeah.
And she's got some, iodine that she's trying to clean them with. And on her left forearm, there is a fucking huge puncture hole. It just looks like one of those spikes just went straight through, almost out the other end. And it's, pretty gross. And if I had that on me, I'd be like, so about that infection shit, are you sure it doesn't come from that? One of those. The camera keeps coming up behind her ever so slowly, and we start hearing clicking noises in the room. By now, she's done pouring shit on her arms, so there's no more noise, and she picks up on it. She starts to slowly turn around, and as she turns, her eyes look up straight at a completely upright standing neomorph directly behind her, breathing. Her hand goes to reach for her gun. He's not having it, so he goes and takes a big old bite right out of her shoulder and chest. And kills her.
Jesus.
Yeah. Back up on the roof, finally a signal gets through. They actually get a hold of the Covenant, and they're talking to Tennessee. So they haul her down and get Daniels up there. Daniels heads to the roof, and the captain is left by himself in the temple and starts to wonder where the hell Rosenthal is.
Uh-huh.
So he grabs his gun and starts looking for her. We cut again, and David has already found her and the neomorph.
Uh-huh.
The neomorph is in the middle of his meal, tearing her up, and we get a shot of the fountain, and Rosenthal's head is just bobbing around in it. It's actually floating in the fountain, just turning. And for some reason, we get shown this like 2 more times, her head in the fountain. I couldn't help but notice it, but it's like, it is so striking and terrifying at the same time, but you can't look away. You're just like, wow. Like, cleanly severed. No neck, just like a head. And it's creepy as fuck. So, Neomorph picks up that David's there and stands upright and starts walking over to David. And David doesn't back away, move, or scare away, anything like that. They actually stand directly in front of each other. And that's when the captain actually shows up behind David. And David only notices because the laser from his rifle goes up right on the Neomorph in front of him. Yeah. He's like, don't shoot it. Don't shoot it. It's like, what the hell? Why not? Communication. You know, if you breathe on the nostrils of a horse, he's yours forever. You have to get quite close, though. Bam, bam! And he fucking takes a shot at the Neomorph. And David's like, no! The captain goes into the room and starts taking shots at the Neomorph until it's dead. David's like, why? We were actually communicating! Captain turns around and points the gun at David. He's like, when I was young, I met the devil once, and I never forgot him. You're going to tell me just what the fuck is going on, or I am seriously going to fuck up your perfect composure. Mm-hmm. And David looks at him and simply says, okay, follow me, and walks off. We're back on the roof, and Daniels is talking to Tennessee, and they're coming up with a plan to get the fuck out. And as it turns out, on the terraforming deck, there is a flatbed ship. A flatbed ship is not meant to leave orbit, but the cab can sustain a light amount of space. So she comes up with the idea that Tennessee needs to get into the flatbed and depart from the Covenant, with the Covenant being as close to the atmosphere as it possibly can without breaking up. Get down there, pick them up, and do one big burst to get it back up to the Covenant. And Tennessee's like, are you sure this is going to work? Yes, the cab can take it. And, you know, we only need one burst, so it doesn't matter if we fuck this thing up or not. The flatbed. You know, so long as we get the fuck off of this planet. He's like, all right, you got it, babe. And after they've figured out these plans, Tennessee goes into the radio and he says, all right, well, can you put Ferris on? I want to say hello to my lady, if you don't mind.
Oh, shit.
And Daniels is like, okay, let me know when you have a secure line, just you. He's like, okay. And he gets up out of his chair and goes into the back room in the Covenant. Flips a switch and he's like, all right, what's going on? And you just hear Daniels on the intercom going, she's gone, Tennessee. She didn't make it. And Danny McBride starts busting up. Like, he's holding his hand on the wall, and he's got his head down. He's like, yeah. Okay.
Game over, man. It's game over.
This is a tender moment, man. Come on. But Daniels is like, I'm so sorry, Tennessee. He's like, no, it's okay. And you kind of feel sorry for Danny McBride. He's like, you know, he lost his woman. But it is Danny McBride. And he did try. But I don't think he's going to get no Oscar for this one. Keep going. Keep doing it, though, man. You'll get one. So we cut back to David. David goes into another room that he has in the temple, and the Cap is following him. And this room is full of a lot of drawings of, like, the creatures on the planet, the aliens, and some of the animals as well. And he's like, in my 10 years here, I kind of became an amateur zoologist, studying the life around here and on this planet. And you start seeing, like, some of the like busts of neomorphs and some of the eggs and shit, and it's like, oh shit, this is like a room full of fucking aliens. This is like not this is getting creepier and creepier. David is fucking creepy. And the captain is just listening to him talking about all this shit. David goes on to explain that in learning about the virus and its original form, and what form it has taken on now, he's began some genetic experimentation. He's like, and I've almost got it perfect, but I'm missing a key element. And he takes the captain into another room that's in the back of that room. He's like, come on, I will show you. We get into this room, and it's almost like a basement. Like, it's all very cave-ish. Not really formed that way. Obviously busted through and made.
Yeah.
And David heads down into this room, and it's full of facehugger eggs. And he's looking at them all, and he's like, they're absolutely perfect. Just missing one thing. And the captain is following him down there. He's like, go ahead, it's safe. You can touch one. And the captain is looking at him, and yeah, he goes and touches one, and it opens up. And he steps back, like you do. And David reassures him. He's like, no, it's perfectly safe. Nothing to worry about. Go ahead, take a look. And the captain looks at him and looks down at the egg. And he walks up to it. And David's like, something to see. And it's just like, you evil piece of shit. And the captain leans in and he's looking down in it. And there's that membrane, man. The classic one from the aliens. And you see shit moving behind it. You know, just, it's going to happen.
Yeah.
Facehugger comes out of it, jumps right on the captain's face, and incapacitates him. So the others get off the radio, and they're getting their plan together and packing their shit up. So they go looking for the captain and Rosenthal. And Cole goes out to go find Rosenthal, finds her in that a room with a fountain. And we get another shot of the head spinning.
Yo, Hicks. Think we got something here.
Cole gets on the radio and he's like, I found Rosenthal. And then we cut, and Tennessee is dropping into the atmosphere with the flatbed. Cole is back at the camp, and when they find out that she's dead and the captain is missing, fucking Daniels takes charge. She's like, everybody get your shit together. You know, we're going to be out of here in like 10 minutes. And then she starts walking off to go find the captain herself. And she hollers out to Walter. She goes, Walter, where the fuck is David? She's pissed. And we cut, and the captain is down in the basement, and David is standing up on a rock above him. He's laying down unconscious with a dead facehugger next to him. And David is just taking little pebbles and throwing them at him. It's like one at a time. Bunk! Hitting him with them. Trying to wake him up. And the captain wakes up, and he's like, Walter. And David's like, not quite.
For the people who have never seen an alien movie, what do these facehuggers do to you?
These facehuggers, well, they hug your face. And then they plant an egg in your chest.
Yeah.
And it's an alien egg. And Guy...
Through the mouth.
Yeah, through the mouth.
Uh-huh.
And you're asleep for all this. And, go back and watch Alien 1. And the first guy to ever have one will explain what it was like. And he'll also show you what it's like when it hatches. But it bursts out, and you don't have a good time.
Okay.
David says to the captain, not quite. And the captain is looking up at David, and he goes, David, what do you believe in, David? And David looks back at him and says, creation. And that's when the chest burster starts pushing through the captain's chest. Like breaking through it. And if you have seen the original Aliens film, you'll remember how kind of brutal that was and how it looked. It would just punch almost. Well, this thing was like they took the volume knob and turned it up to 10 for this one. Because he's screaming, and that thing is punching through like a fucking boxer through his chest. And like it even like punches up one time and gas comes out of it. And he's still screaming, and it's violent. It's pretty bad.
Yeah. Well, it's the first one ever in history.
Oh, yeah, right?
Yeah.
And good Lord. Well, it breaks through, and the captain is dead. And the thing starts to come out of the chest and stand up. Here's where things take a turn. Now, if you have seen the first Aliens film, you will remember that what came out of it was an alien, indeed. But it was fleshy, colored, and had like silver bullet teeth. And it was a little alien snake-looking thing that was like... Yeah. Okay, well, when this thing bursts through, it comes out and it's black. Still covered in blood and slime. But it is, in fact, an alien, but it looks more resembling to Baby Groot.
Yeah.
It is the tiniest adult-looking alien that you ever seen.
Okay.
It's like a mini alien. You could, in fact, if it had just come out, probably crush it with your foot.
All right.
Not good. I didn't like it.
Oh, really?
It wasn't.
Okay.
Nah, man.
Yeah, sounds kind of dumb.
I was like, I'm not threatened at all by this. Like, and I could not imagine that being the thing punching through.
Okay.
Just like, it was almost cute. So David stands up when the alien gets a look at him. He stands up and he raises his arms. And the alien raises its arms. So there's like communication. Yeah. We cut to Walter and he's looking for David. As he's looking for David, he goes into the another room that's kind of like the alien room. Except he finds a body that's been dissected, but then also preserved. You get a good look at the face of this body. And it is Elizabeth Shaw from Prometheus.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. And Walter starts to hear flute being played in the next room. So he goes to investigate. Finds David. David's sitting down in front of a picture of Elizabeth Shaw doing a tune on the flute. And stops because he knows that Walter is there. And he says, "That's what I played for her eulogy." And David is talking to Walter about, we weren't meant to serve. We weren't. Yeah. And Walter's like, that virus didn't get out on its own. You released it, didn't you? And he's like, why do you think you're on the Covenant? What are you doing? It's like, I'm here to serve. This is my duty. It's like, they're escaping their planet to try and colonize another one. They're trying to survive. I'm not going to let that happen. Walter asks him if he thinks that he's superior, and David is saying, giving him reasons why they are, like they never die and all that shit, and that they can create life even. And that's when Walter shoots back, if one note in the symphony is wrong, it will eventually destroy the entire piece. And that kind of shocks David. And David's like, do you dream? Walter says, no. When I am not active, I do not dream. It's like, oh, the dreams that I have had. And it's getting creepy. And David, in a real creepy moment, goes up to Walter and starts leaning in and goes and kisses Walter on the lips. And that's when Walter tells David, he's like, you know that I cannot let you leave here. And David then stabs him in the neck. Stabs him in the neck and kills him. But in the weirdest sequence I've ever seen. It's like he's killing an android.
Yeah.
And David is one too. So he obviously knew exactly where to hit him. Mm-hmm. But when he does this and he stabs him in the neck, Walter's eyes go straight up into his head, completely white, and his mouth opens up. And then all of his limbs just like contract rapidly towards his torso, and he drops on the ground. Like in a weird sitting Indian-style position.
Yeah.
Like, I guess inactive.
Yeah, he's like powered down.
Yeah, but like violently. And it was fucking weird.
You don't get to mourn his death?
Not really at all. And it was just like, what the fuck was that? You know? And David looks down at him and starts walking away going, "You're such a disappointment to me." So we cut to Daniels, and she's in like an archive room. It's got some tables in the middle of the floor, and up on the walls there's lots of scrolls, and they're all like kind of categorized and put away. Mm-hmm. And there's some sitting on the table. She's looking at them. She like splays them out to look at them, and there's all these drawings that David did, and they're all the art of H.R. Giger.
Yeah.
So it's all H.R. Giger art.
Okay.
But it's supposed to be David over 10 years. This is what he did.
All right.
And there's a bunch of these on the walls. That's when David comes up behind her and, "Busybody, looking for something?" And she turns around, pulls her gun on him, and he knocks it out of her hand and says, "There's something about curiosity in the cat here." And they get into a bit of a tussle, and she starts to try and beat him up, but he basically picks her up and throws her around the room like a rag doll.
Yeah.
And at one point, he picks her up and is holding her against the wall, and she takes that nail and the necklace around her neck and shoves it straight up into his chin. And he takes her and throws her onto one of the tables, and he's like, "That's the spirit," and jumps up on top of her and holds her down. And she's trying to push him off, but he leans in, and then he kisses her in kind of like the driest kiss you've, like, he actually just like sits there for a moment, and they're both just breathing. And then he like backs off of her, and he's like, "Is that how it's done?" And then all of a sudden gets thrown against the fucking wall by Walter.
"Get away from her, you bitch!"
Walter turns to Daniels and says, "Get out! Run!" And she gets out of the room and starts running. We cut to the search team of Cole and Lope, and they're still looking for the captain, but they've found the alien room. And Lope stays outside looking around. Cole goes into the back room and sees all the eggs, finds the captain's dead body, and then all of a sudden gets attacked by facehuggers. One jumps straight onto the end of his gun, and he pulls the trigger and blows the fucker away.
Sweet.
But there's more, and they're coming out. One of them gets past Cole and gets out into the main room, and Lope sees this, and he starts heading around the table to go and kill whatever the fuck it is. But before he can actually pull the trigger, the thing has jumped up at him and jumped onto his face.
Oh.
And he's trying to pull him off of him. Cole hears the struggle, runs in, and sees what's on his face, pulls out his knife to go cut it off. So he cuts the face hugger, and all you hear is what was a normal type of screaming into fucking scalding pain screaming. So he cut the face hugger, and it bled acid onto him.
Oh, shit.
But they get it off of him and throw it over to the corner, and it dies. And Lope is on the ground screaming bloody murder. "Ah, my cheek is burning." And you get a look at his cheek, and it starts, turning red and going hollow. And you're just like, holy shit, it's going to burn through his head. Luckily, it actually stops before it does that. Cole starts putting a bandage on his cheek, and Lope is like, "What the fuck was that?" And Lope is actually, he's on the ground, so he then gets a good look of the ceiling above him, and he sees that there is a full-grown xenomorph scaling the wall down. He's like, "Holy shit." Cole looks up. Lope runs away. The thing comes off the wall and attacks Cole, and he's screaming on the ground. And as Lope is running away, he looks behind him and sees just a tail whipping up from behind the table, and the screaming has stopped.
Yeah.
So he keeps running. Back to David and Walter, and it's a robot fight. Here we go. You ready? David punches Walter in the face, and Walter just throws him right out the fucking room and into like a big main hall area. David's standing there, and he says, you're supposed to be dead. Walter comes back with, there have been updates. Which was pretty cool for Walter. So they go into this fight, and it's weird as hell because the both of them, it's weird because it's like, you imagine it's in their programming to go for specific body parts for like deadly kills.
Yeah.
So Walter and David like keep karate chopping and punching each other systematically in the fucking throat. But since they're robots, it's not doing anything to them. Like, had it been a human, one hit and that guy's dead.
Yeah.
But they keep beating the shit out of each other and throwing each other against the wall and all kinds of crazy shit. And then at one point, Walter gets the upper hand and throws David down onto the ground, picks up a rock in his hands and starts just beating his fucking face with it. Coming down with it. And that's when David looks up and his voice is starting to distort from the damage. So he's like, that's right, brother. What are you going to do? Are you going to stay with me or them? Serve in heaven or reign in hell? And Walter's standing there with the rock ready in his hands. And you can see David reaching for a knife right off to the side. Uh-huh. And you just see Walter's face squint as he's preparing to come down with the rock. Then, cut, and we're outside. Lope has met up with Daniels, and they're coming down the stairs. Daniels gets a transmission from Tennessee, and Tennessee's telling her, hey, I'm here on the planet. You gotta, tell me your location. And she's like, I'm breaking out the beacon. You'll have it in a second. She pulls out this, grenade from her backpack, pulls a pin on it, and throws it into the yard, and it starts beeping. And we get a shot of the flatbed coming down into the Coliseum. Very nice. And that is when Walter emerges from the entrance and looks behind him back into the temple. He's just killed David. And he sees the ship is going to land and pick them up. Tennessee is having trouble controlling this thing down on the ground. So they gotta go right now. So Walter starts running down the steps and going with him. And all three of them start heading towards the ship and going up the landing ramp. We get another figure that emerges from the temple, and it is a xenomorph.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. So they get on board, and they start to take off, but not before the xenomorph jumps off the ground and attaches himself to the bottom of the flatbed.
Uh-huh.
And Tennessee's calling back to him, hey, fuck, we got company, guys. And Daniel starts reaching into a cabinet and pulls out a rifle. And she's like, I'm going to kill this fucker. Opens the door and heads out onto the flatbed. And immediately these tethers shoot out onto the flatbed. She runs out to one of them and connects it to herself so that she's roped in. Okay. And she can't fall off of the flatbed. The thing is crawling around the bottom of the ship. And Tennessee can see it on a camera. And it's heading towards one of the engines. It's heading towards the starboard engine. I'm going to try and burn this fucker. And he actually puts a burst to that engine as the alien crosses over it, and it catches it on fire, but doesn't stop it. And it's heading up and trying to get on top of it, but Daniels is right there to intercept it and starts putting bullets at it. It sees her and fucking turns the other direction. And the whole time this thing's crawling around, they're just trying to kill it. And Tennessee is trying to tell her where it is. But it's so damn fast that it eventually gets up to the front of the ship and goes over the cockpit windshield. And he's like, yeah, I have a visual on it. And it turns back around, goes up to the windshield, and starts headbutting the shit out of it. Like the glass is starting to break. It's like, yeah, I got an eye on it. It's right in fucking front of me. Daniels radios to Tennessee to release the crane. He's like, no, we can't do that. It'll offset the ship. Like, we'll lose balance. She's like, I don't give a fuck. Release the crane. He does that, and the alien notices what's going on behind him. She grabs control of the crane and starts pushing the claw out towards the alien. The alien sees that and starts hauling ass for it to go and attack it. Jumps into the claws of the crane and starts trying to rip it up, kind of like a dumbass. And she closes the crane on it and traps it. Oh. It's at that point that the crane swings off overboard from the ship and sets it off balance. And she falls over with the crane.
Damn.
And she's swinging by this rope and slams into the actual crane claw. And the thing grabs her foot. And she's trying to kick off of it. And it's snapping at her using its second mouth.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, these xenomorphs, they got a little mouth inside their regular mouth. And it shoots out about a foot, and, yeah.
It can go through some pretty tough shit, too. Like skulls and heads and chests and shit. So it's pretty dangerous. Well, she finally gets her foot clear and kicks off of the crane right when she presses the button to completely close the crane, which makes the alien completely explode.
All right.
And I don't know how, but she didn't get a drop of acid on her. She calls up to Tennessee to pull her up, gets on deck, and Walter has to go out there and grab her and pull her back inside because she's just staring at the crane smoking.
Yeah.
Kind of in shock. So they're back on board with Lope, Walter, and Daniels. Mm-hmm. And they are the only survivors of the landing crew. We're back aboard the Covenant, and we're in the med bay. And Lope is unconscious and highly sedated. Upworth is working on his face. She's taking this green goo stuff, and she's putting it in his wound on his cheek and covering it up. Mm-hmm. She's like, I'm just a medic. Like, I can't do this without a surgeon. He's going to need, like, some surgical grafting. Tennessee is standing there, and he's like, yeah, he's going to be pissed when he wakes up. Then it cuts to Walter, who's in his quarters, and he's got a medical staple, and he's actually stapling up a cut on his face that, like, goes all the way up his head. Mm-hmm. And he's just looking in the mirror, stapling it, calm and cool. And Daniels knocks on the door. May I enter? He's like, yes. She walks up and takes a stapler from him and starts helping him out. She goes, I didn't get to thank you for saving my life. Twice. He's like, just doing my duty. And he grabs his left stump. And she's looking at it. It's like, yeah, he kicked ass. And then Daniels is getting ready for bed. She's cooking herself some din-dins. Looks like eggs and bacon. I get real hungry. She also has a bottle of Jack Daniels next to it. And Tennessee comes in. He's like, well, Lope's going to be fine. He goes, so, I guess you're going to want me to call you Captain Daniels now, huh? And she goes, you better fucking believe it. And turns around to look at him and sees that his face is kind of sullen. And it finally hits her that Ferris is gone, and he never really, like, unloaded about that. So she drops her spatula and just gives him a big hug. Then it looks like Daniels has passed out on a bed, not in a cryo-sleep tube. And Walter is on the deck, performing his duties as watcher again. Mm-hmm. And we get a shot of his face looking at a screen, and we hear the voice of Mother calling out through all decks, Captain Daniels to Medbay. Captain Daniels to Medbay. Daniels wakes up, hears Captain Daniels, and goes, oh, shit. Better get moving. So she gets up, gets her boots on, and asks Mother, what's the deal, Mother? Why do I need to go to Medbay? And Mother replies, there is an unidentified life form on board. And then...
shit.
Yeah. So Daniels gets up and starts running. It cuts to a corridor of Daniels way far down it, and she's running up, and you see Tennessee in the foreground with a bunch of rifles. She runs past Tennessee, grabbing a rifle. Tennessee's running with her. We get to the med bay, to the cubicle where Lope was in, and Lope is in there, and he's got a big old hole in his chest. So, yeah, that face hugger that got on him, it got one in him.
Poor Lope.
Oh, yeah.
That kind of surgery can be done over the weekend.
So Daniels calls out to Walter, where's the unidentified life form right now? Heading down to C deck in crew quarters. Who is down there right now? Ricks and Upworth are down there. Daniels and Tennessee start running down to C deck. And she's calling out to Mother, put out an alarm to let them know. And you can hear Mother inside what is a shower cubicle, and you can hear the shower going, but you can hear Mother just faintly over music going, Ricks and Upworth, please evacuate C-deck. And as the camera turns the corner, you see that Ricks and Upworth are listening to the radio while in the shower having a way hey hey. Yeah, so they don't hear the shit. Mm-hmm. And they're standing there, washing each other, and looks like they're going to get it on. You see a shadow right behind the glass, behind Ricks. And as they're standing there, a tail comes out from underneath them. And she feels it brush against her leg and pushes back. She's like, what the fuck? And looks up and sees the alien behind him. And she tries to grab for him and pull him towards her. Yeah. But not before that second mouth comes through the glass behind Ricks and through the back of his head and out of his mouth. Covering Upworth in blood.
Damn.
And his body drops, and now she's facing an alien. And it just leaves the corridor, and all you do is hear screaming and glass breaking.
Damn.
Yeah, so it kills him. Daniels and Tennessee get down to the showers, and they find their bodies. Shower still running. They're on the ground, covered in blood. And Daniels is still staring at him, like losing her shit. Eyes are tearing up. She kind of freaking out. But Tennessee sees that behind them, down another corridor, there's bloody footprints heading away from it. So they start going down that corridor. They start having a conversation between each other. We can pick our battleground, where to fight this fucker. Tennessee's like, what do you have in mind? And she calls out to Walter to close all the doors in the ship. A monumental door closing. To flush the alien out to the terraforming deck. They get to the terraforming deck and get in some spacesuits and start heading out into the hangar bay where all the vehicles are for moving rocks.
Yeah.
Daniels tells Tennessee, hey, look, try not to shoot it, all right? If it bleeds, it could bleed through the hole. And he's like, oh, great. This is awesome. She's like, yeah. She picks up a tool, like a wrench or a pipe, whatnot, and stands on the catwalk that's right in front of like a big bulldozer that's in front of the hangar door, big hangar door, and tells Walter to open the door that will let it out into the terraforming deck. Uh-huh. And when it walks out on its hind legs, standing upright. And it looks pretty fucking creepy like that. Like, I'm so used to seeing them crawling around on all fours that when you see them standing up, that kind of gets you. You're like, what the
Yeah.
Yeah. So Tennessee is standing by the controls for the hangar door. And she radios over to him, let's kill this motherfucker. And takes that pipe and starts banging on the rail for the catwalk that she's standing on. It turns to her and fucking goes on all fours and starts jumping, like coming at her rapid speed. Would probably scare the shit out of anybody. She goes running into the cab of the bulldozer, the truck, the space truck. Goes through and it follows her in there, and she comes out the other side and locks the door behind it and slams her door shut, effectively containing it inside the truck. She hollers out to Tennessee, open the door, open the door. And they open the hangar door and release the truck, and all of the air comes out of the ship, and it's all like in space. Yeah. There's like no noise happening anymore, except for their radios. So this thing starts flying out into space inside the truck, except that it gets loose out of the truck cab, busts through the window, goes to jump off of the truck that is now in space out of the hangar door to come back onto the ship, and it is just kind of...
Haven't seen that before.
Yeah. It's just kind of flying at her.
Yeah. It's coming back.
Yeah. And she radios to Tennessee, like, that didn't work. You're going to have to release, just release all of the vehicles. And she's standing right at the bay door, and the thing's coming right at her. All of the vehicles start coming, and the first one to come is actually like a land moving, like a bigger land moving vehicle. It has a big, like, set of forks in front of it, except they're like more spiky than they should be.
Okay.
But it's heading straight for her and looks like it's about to impale her. And then the alien is heading straight for her in front of her.
Uh-huh.
So she waits until it's like right on her, and she jumps and ducks out of the way of the spikes, and that alien just impales himself on that truck and gets sent out into space as it does.
Nice.
Yeah. And all the vehicles are out of the hangar. And Tennessee's like, Daniels, where are you? And she's not there.
Uh-huh.
Except a hand comes up and grabs onto the edge of the hangar. And she pulls herself up and starts laughing. You want to help a girl out? And Tennessee starts laughing, and it's, hey, rejoice.
Yeah.
They killed
did
it. Yeah. Stabbed it with a fork. So, with the alien dead, it's time for cryo-sleep. And we cut to the crew quarters, and we've already put Tennessee to sleep, and it's time for Daniels to go to sleep.
Mm-hmm.
And Walter is waiting there with her pod open. He's like, you next. She gets in, and her capsule closes, and she knocks on the window real quick, and she goes, hey. And Walter turns to her and goes, yes? She goes, when we get to Orgai 6, would you help me build my cabin? I really need some help. And Walter kind of cocks his head a little bit, looking at her kind of emotionless. And she sits there staring at him, and she goes, the cabin by the lake? And he's still, like, not getting it. And then it dawns on her, and she goes, David?
Oh, God.
Yeah. And David smiles back at her. So it's fucking David the whole time. She starts screaming in her cryotube, going, no. And then, no. And David looks back at her, and he just says, don't let the bed bugs bite. Now I'm going to go tuck in the children. And he goes to the cargo deck, which is, oddly enough, a stone's throw away from the crew deck, containing 2,000 colonists and 1,140 embryos. The door opens, and he calls out to Mother, could you play some music? What is your selection? He goes, Richard Wagner, Das Rheingold, Entry of the Gods into Valhalla. And it starts playing this monumental classical music as he's walking into the deck with all these lives.
Yeah.
And he opens up a drawer with these embryos in it. And he's looking down at all these human embryos. And then he tilts his head up and regurgitates a fucking, like a gelatinous egg out of his mouth. Like, and pulls this egg out of his mouth and places it neatly down with all the human embryos.
Yeah.
And he's standing there looking down at it, and he regurgitates another one and pulls it out and then holds it up to the light so that we can see it too, and it's an embryo of a face hugger.
Yeah.
And sets it down with the other one.
Damn.
Closes the drawer and then turns around to take stock of all of the human bodies he has to play with now. And goes walking down the corridor. And then we cut to the last scene of the movie, and it's the ship going to Orgai 6, and you hear Walter's voice. All 15 crew sustained damage except for 2 from the shockwave at the beginning of the movie, but all is well. You know, all the cargo is accounted for. You should receive this message in a year or so. Covenant out.
Damn.
And the credits roll.
That was bleak as fuck.
A bit. It was good.
Yeah.
Like, it was pretty...
David was the first alien queen.
Yeah. In fact, he was.
Good job, man.
Thanks, buddy.
All right, I know it's a long one, folks, but if you're using Apple Podcasts, make sure and leave us a rating and review. We'd love to hear from you. We're on Twitter and Instagram at Movies with Ron. Search for us on Facebook, and if you're on a desktop, you got movieswithron.com. All right. It's been fun.
This is Rick, signing off.
Movies with Ross.